In this video, I'm discussing everything that you need to know about placement fees. Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Natasha, the business recruiter. Welcome back to my channel. So when it comes to placement fees, it's important to understand that this subject can actually be pretty subjective, and it's going to be different based on who you talk to, how long that particular person has been in the recruiting industry, their knowledge of the recruiting industry, and ultimately their overall strategy that they've probably leveraged in order to get signed contracts in place. So I say all of that to say is that there's no right or wrong way to go about placement fees. Ultimately, what you want to make sure though is that you actually are getting paid for the value that you bring to the table. So when it comes to placement fees, you can usually go one of two ways. And the first way, which is the most common way and the way that I have pretty much always leveraged in terms of getting a signed contract in place, is to have a percentage fee. That percentage is usually based on the employee's first year salary. Now, it's important that you notate within your contract exactly what is entailed in that first year salary. Meaning, if you're not descriptive in your contract, you may only get that placement fee for the base salary. Keep in mind that a placement fee for the first year salary can be based on base salary, sign-on bonus, as well as any additional forms of cash that that employee is going to receive in their first year. Keep in mind that placement fees can vary. The lowest that I've seen is 10% and the highest I've seen is 40%. And keep in mind that placement fees in terms of where they fall within that range and what you should actually put into your contract is really going to depend on a couple different things. The first is the relationship that you actually have with the client. Is it brand new, or have you had this relationship ongoing for some time? If it's brand new, ideally, more than likely, you're going to have a lower placement fee. If it's been a relationship that you've had for some time, then ideally, you'll probably end up on the higher end of that spectrum. That just means that you've had the opportunity to gain trust as well as rapport with that client, so they know that you are able to handle the job. And when they know that you're able to fill their requisitions quickly, they tend to be more understanding of that higher placement fee. The second thing that you want to keep in mind is that the job requisition you are filling is going to matter. Meaning, if it's a more entry-level role, ideally your placement fee is going to be on the lower end of the spectrum. It just means that there's not a ton of work that you're going to have to put into filling that requisition. So ideally, it's going to end up on the lower side. Now, for more complex or more niche roles that you're looking to fill, those requisitions are typically going to yield a much higher placement fee. That's where you'll get into 25 to 40% in terms of that being acceptable, because it's going to require a lot more of you in order to be able to fill those requisitions. And when you think about more complex searches, they typically aren't going to be 1 to 2 months in terms of how long you're looking to fill that role. It can sometimes be 6 months plus. So you want to be compensated for the amount of work that you're putting in and the value that you're bringing to the table. Now, the second route that you can take in terms of placement fees is an actual flat rate fee. And this means that it's just going to be some arbitrary amount that you set with your client in order to get that signed contract in place. And keep in mind that that amount can vary. It can be on the lower end in terms of maybe $5,000 or the higher end in terms of $20,000 plus. Now, I'll be very transparent that I've typically steered away from this model. And even when I do retained searches, although there is a certain flat rate fee that's associated with it, it's also a percentage that's tied to it as well. What I have typically found just through talking to other professionals who have been in the recruiting industry for some time is that a flat rate fee just tends to limit you, especially if you're not familiar with how to actually go about pricing yourself. And I think that's the most maybe difficult part about it, is that sometimes it can be very hard for beginners to understand exactly where they should price themselves. For example, let's say that you really want to take on a client and you want to go the flat rate fee, and you're like, well, I just want to make sure that I'm able to get a signed contract and get going. So you set your flat rate fee to, let's say, $3,000 for a requisition. And let's say that that requisition is a $50,000 role that you're looking to fill. Well, even at the bare minimum in terms of a percentage fee, I would always recommend at least 10%. And 10% of $50,000 is $5,000. So if you think about it, you've actually just shorted yourself out of $2,000 because you went the flat rate fee route. So when it comes to percentages and flat rate fees, I will always recommend that you go the percentage route over the flat rate fee route. I just feel that the percentage route really takes in your value as well as ensures that you're getting paid exactly what it is that you're worth. And if you take nothing away from this video, then I think that that's the most important point that you have to take away, is that when you're looking to set your placement fee, whether it is your very first client or your 200th client, make sure that you are getting paid what you're worth. Keep in mind that it takes a lot of time and energy to go about filling a requisition. And usually if you're a one man or woman show in terms of you starting your recruiting agency, you're doing all aspects of the recruiting process. You're sourcing, you're interviewing, and you're closing the deal, along with so many other things on the administrative side that go into being able to get from point A to point Z in terms of the recruiting process and you actually getting paid. With that stated, you want to make sure that you are compensated for all of the time, energy, and work that you put into executing that search and ultimately concluding it. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, then be sure to give me a thumbs up, as well as if you are not subscribed to my channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go down below and hit that subscribe button, as well as that bell, so that you can get notified of all of my videos that drop weekly, as well as my Facebook group. If you're not in there, then I'll leave that link in the description box. Be sure to join because we're in there talking all things recruiting. And last but not least, in terms of contracts, because it's an essential part of your business, I actually have a contract template that you can leverage so that you're able to get off on the right foot in terms of starting your own recruiting agency. I'll be sure to leave that link down below in the description box as well. That way you can download it and start your search off right. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.